YouTube, welcome back to another track guide. A bit later than normal through the week, however, with the service going down, with work, etc, etc, I think delayed me, but we managed to get there in the end. I wanted to get a high quality lap out for you, and I believe that's what I've got for you here today. Managed to squeak into the sub 2 minute lap times. Really pleased with that, to be honest with you. Took quite a bit of effort on my behalf. Not really a GT3 kind of driver, GT car kind of driver, but we got there in the end, so that's all that matters. Let's not waste any more time and jump right in. But as we cross the start finish line, we're heading down to the first turn. We're going to be in 6th gear by the time we get to the first turn, and we're looking for our braking point. There is quite a nice little reference. Obviously you've got the 50-metre board to the left, you've even got the blue cone to your right, also got the escape road or the access road on our left. That's what I use as my reference. And the first turn, it's very, very tricky. You've got to think of it like a double apex, so braking hard initially and then bleeding off the brakes quite quickly into trail braking as we go through the first turn. And if you look at the brake trail I've got in the bottom left there, you can see that reflected as we try and hook up with this curb on the inside. And then again, once we're past that curb, we begin to increase the braking a smidge. This will increase the understeer in the car, which will then make the car wash out to the outside of the track, which will line your car up nicely, firstly for the entry of the second part of this turn, but then also, more importantly, the exit. So dropping it down a couple of gears again, and then we're going to start trail braking, trying to line up the car for the exit, just holding on to that brake, and then as soon as we see our car lining up with the curb on the inside, that's when we put the power on. Then we're up to 3rd gear and immediately faced with a series of left-right combinations, a very technical series of corners. So for the first left-hander, my advice is to leave it in 3rd gear, just cover the brake. As you can see on the throttle trace there again, I've got 2% brake on at this point, hardly anything, it's just to stabilise the car, get the weight on the front of the car to get your car turning, and you can really attack the curb on the inside here. If you do choose to attack the curb like this, you need to apply the power smoothly because the car is unsettled, and then immediately once you're out of that turn, you're straight into the right-hander. So you're going to cover the brake again, a lot of trail braking here, it's just to get the weight on the front of the car and scrub a little bit of speed, and you dive into this right-hander as well. So as we see, just trail braking up to the curb and then slowly applying the power. For this next left-hander, I like to use this bit of dirt that's on the track. It's always there, never seems to disappear. As my car gets over that dirt, that's when I cover the brake again, get the nose pointed in, and really attack this curb on the inside. As you can see, a little bit aggressive on the throttle, it does pull me to the very inside of the track for this long right-hander. Not the end of the world, again, it is just a compromise. I'm going to have to take this right-hander slower now. So once again, we've got this little dirt patch, this little dust patch on the track. That's what I use as my little braking point. I'm going to cover the brake, trail brake all the way around this turn, drop it down to 2nd gear, on the power as early as I can. However, one thing to consider here is you want to line up on the right hand side of the track on corner exit. You don't want to be all the way over on the left hand side of the track, as it's going to compromise this final turn in the series, this left-hander we're about to go through, and that is arguably the most important turn. So now for the left-hander, as you can see, I am lined up on the right hand side of the track. Not all the way, but close enough. We turn in and we just lift off, allow the car to turn a bit more. You can hit the curb on the inside as I do here, just be mindful that it will unsettle the car, and you can use all the track on exit. Again, if you do use the curb on exit, you need to be very careful not to use too much of it. If you do step over that boundary and go into the AstroTurf or even the dirt, you will end up spinning very, very quickly. Now the braking point for Degner 1 is in between the 100 and the 50-metre board. Fairly simple, just going to drop it down to 4th gear. Initially braking quite firmly, but then trail braking all the way until you hit that curb. That's what we're aiming for, the curb on the inside. As soon as you hit the curb, it's off the brake and then back on the power. As for the braking for Degner 2, we're going to be braking down to 2nd gear. We're going to be braking as hard as we can, but bear in mind we are braking on the curb on the AstroTurf, so it's going to be much easier for the car to lock up, so you do need to keep it nice and smooth. As for a braking point, I don't really have one. It's just as soon as I'm done with Degner 1, I'm thinking about braking for Degner 2. It's that simple really. As soon as my car's settled, that's when I start to brake. So as you can see, braking fairly smoothly and trail braking. The corner is heavily cambered, so you do want to get as close to the curb as possible. Unfortunately, on my lap, I do hit the curb, which isn't ideal. I hit it a little bit too much, so there is a bit of time lost there for myself. Then we're up to 4th gear as we head into a very technical hairpin. Because it's got this slight right just before it, it does mess up the braking. Just going to pause it here to illustrate how tight I am, how close I am to that curb on the inside of the right-hander. You want to take it as tight as you possibly can, and then you can use that curb as your braking point. Then as you approach the corner, you're going to start trail braking and trail braking a lot. So we're all the way down into first gear and then back on the power as early as we can. You can be very aggressive with applying the power there because it's a fixed setup, it's very stable. Now heading into spoon curve, spoon corner, one of the most famous turns in the world. Again, similar to the first turn, it's another double apex, however it's slightly more drawn out. The braking, I like to use the escape road, the access road on the right. We're going to brake before that access road. It's just a reference for us. We're going to brake it down to third gear. Once more, we're braking fairly hard initially and then bleeding off into trail braking as we start to turn into the first part of spoon. If you do attack the curb, you need to apply the power smoothly. If you're a bit too aggressive, you could lose the back end, or if your car's very stable when you do that, you'll end up understeering wide, having to brake very, very early for the second part of spoon, so please bear that in mind. As you can see, I'm just sort of stabbing at the throttle, not going 100%, trying to keep the car stable as it washes away to the outside of the track. And I'm on the curb, on the outside, and then I brake. Brake very gently. If you brake too much, your car will understeer. Those front tyres are going to lock up because you're asking a lot of those front tyres at the moment. So braking smooth, dropping it down to second gear, getting that nose pointed into the curb on the inside, and then as soon as you can see that you're lined up with that curb on the inside, it's full power. You'll feel the back end step out, that'll give you extra rotation and you'll make it. You're not going to understeer wide. Now we're heading down the straight into 130R. We're going to be in fifth gear as we turn in. I like to use the 50 meter board as my turning point. Simply just turn and lift. Then as you approach the curb on the inside, you're going to start to feed that power back in. Then we're heading into the final turn, a chicane. As for a braking point, in between the 150 and the 100 meter board is the only sort of visual reference I've got. We're going to be braking all the way down to first gear. My advice is to brake hard in a straight line on the very extreme left of the track until you're in first gear, and then trail brake and turn in. As you can see, as soon as I'm in first gear, I'm starting to bleed off the brakes and I'm really going to attack that curb. Then it's a quick squirt of power and then a dab of the brake and then attack the curb on the left-hander, not quite as much as you did on the entry of the chicane, but still quite a lot, and then feed the power back in. Then we're up through the gears, trying to take the line of least resistance to the start-finish line, and we cross the line with a time of 1:59.994. As always, I'm just going to let the uninterrupted cockpit lap play through. If you did enjoy the video, please hit that like button. Leave a comment down below if you've got any questions or thoughts on the video, and as always, really appreciate it. If you are not subscribed, subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Catch you in a bit.